Hey everybody, and welcome back. Whew, man, past few days have been something else. That being said, today, if you are considering a top-end build on your M8, you'll want to watch this video. Consider this to be a public service announcement, if you will, and I'm going to tell you why you should be willing to pay a couple of extra hours to the shop, whether it's me or anyone else that's doing your build, the top end on your M8, why you should pay them an extra couple of hours, give or take, to open up your primary. So stay tuned. There's 5 engines setting here, 4 of which are M8s. Now, as you guys know, I'm kind of working in stages now, tearing down, pulling top ends, getting heads and things in the machine shop. Let me see if I can adjust this just a little bit more. There we go. I think that's better. Getting things in the machine shop, kind of doing things in stages and processes. Well, that left me with these M8s sitting here, where the bottom ends will be split so that the cranks can be done, etc., etc. That said, I thought this was a great opportunity, considering my findings, to show you guys something. And again, why I think you should pay a little bit extra to have your primary opened up, even if you're opening just the top end of your engine to have a top end built. Quite frankly, you want to have someone that can rotate that crankshaft freely with nothing impeding on it. Rotate it freely so you can get a good feel for how the crankshaft is operating. Any tight spots, sticky spots, or anything like that. Often, you could have a run out that is within margin. Outside of a gear drive, of course, we know the specs. We've talked about those things over and over again. But you could have a crank that seems to show okay when you start checking sprocket shaft and pinion shaft run out. Take a look at the video I did the other day on checking sprocket shaft run out. That's something you should certainly do anyway. Aside from that, the run out could be okay, but the bearings could be a little weird. Could be a little off. And so I want to talk to you about these engines that are on the stand. Now, what I have here is a 2019 114. I have a 2021 107. I have a 2020 107 and a 2021 107. So these are different year models. They all have similar mileage on them, somewhere between 15 and 30,000 miles. That's not a big gap between all of those. But I want to show you something. Understand, looking at the cam plate, different cam plates that came out over the course of 17 to 19, 20, 21 sort of thing. Just because you have a new cam plate doesn't mean you're immune to other issues or potential other problems or things like that. And for those of you that are having just that top end done, pulling that primary apart so your chosen technician can rotate the crankshaft through its full rotation certainly has value to it. Step number 1. 2, of course, by opening the primary, you have the opportunity to check sprocket shaft run out. And when you open up the gear case, you have the opportunity to check pinion shaft run out. That being said, let's take a look at what we've got. These are 4, I say chosen at random. None of these 4 engines had operating issues. They were making no noises. There were no signs of any problems. So this was just, let's say, an observation during the teardown. And you guys know I'm very methodical when it comes to teardowns. So let's take a look at what we got. I'm going to start over here with the 2019 114. Now, all of these engines have had the crank sensor removed. So, and they're all sitting the same way. All of them have had the opportunity to drain. Now, this one in particular, when I pulled that crank sensor, a lot more oil came out of that one, but we'll get to that in a second. All crank sensors have been removed, and they are just sitting here, all in the same state, with the gear cases still assembled, tappets still in place, well, with the exception of that one right there. But you guys get it. We're kind of comparing everything the same. This would be a 2019 114. And when I go to rotate this one, it rotates very smoothly. Of course, I see no oil hitting the flywheel assembly. Excellent. Now let's move on to this one. This is the 2021. Also operating freely in this direction. And again, the reason I suggested removing the primary is to allow the technician the ability to do this and get a full feel with full range motion as to what that flywheel assembly feels like in both directions. Don't rotate it just once or twice. Rotate it several times. Give that roller bearing on the connecting rods an opportunity to spin around. And we're looking for any tight spots. And then, of course, when we do that, we're going to be feeling for any up and down, and we're going to feel for any side to side. It's a feel thing. Now, let's move to this one. Oh, I guess I stopped it in the right place. All right, there we go. Now, as I rotate this one, we stick right there. We stick there. Now let me see if I can just get this thing to rotate. There we go. Let's get her moving. And of course, I have oil bathing on the flywheel half on the right-hand side. And then if I spin back in the other direction, there will undoubtedly be a spot that it sticks. Let's slow her down right there. And that's the spot. This is why you want to, sorry, I just bumped the camera. Okay, there we go. Right there. There's another spot that this flywheel assembly is sticking. We can also see that the rod, if we get it to the sweet spot, these rods will stick. Regardless, we have a sticky spot in this flywheel assembly on the 2020. Now, let's move over to the 2021 and see what we find. This assembly, I'm not sure if you can see it or not, is sumping severely. I have a tremendous amount of oil being picked up here on the flywheel halves. Undoubtedly, when I get to this point right here, it's a little stiff. I can push it through. Now let's work our way in the other direction. It seems to spin freely, but undoubtedly, right there is a point that it wants to stick. There we go, and we get it out of there. And we'll rotate smoothly again. And there's that spot again. Ow, ow, that hurt. Okay, there we go. And that's on the 2021-107. Now, this engine back here, this one's a twin cam. That's for a whole nother conversation. Regardless, it's at a step in the process that that case needs to be split. The next thing I want to show you guys are pistons that came out of these engines. Of course, you'll see there's only 6 of them here, which are out of 3 of them. I don't know where the other set went. I think I set it on a shelf somewhere, or I may have already thrown them away. Point being, if we look at these pistons, I can't identify really which engine that they came out of by just observing the piston itself. I do see this set right here has considerably more carbon buildup than the others, but they all have a bit of carbon buildup on them. The one that is the healthiest one, this particular one right here, has what I would say would be a somewhat reasonable amount, even though it's excessive. It's covered in oil on the top, so there was quite a bit of quite a bit of oil migration. Notice how it's shiny. That's not from fuel, that's from oil. And you'll notice this one here where the carbon buildup looks relatively dry. This would be from fuel carbon, not necessarily oil. When you look at the ones that have the one that has the worst carbon on it, again, look at how it's soaking wet. It has a oily film to it. This carbon would be essentially from oil buildup. So I say that to say just simply inspecting the top of the piston is not a clear indication of whether or not you have a crankshaft issue or a sumping issue, because carbon on the piston and oil buildup within the cylinder is not always directly relative to having a sumping problem. So we can't make assumptions with this sort of thing. Now, I say all of that to say this. Again, consider this to be a bit of a PSA for you guys. If you, whether we're your chosen shop or anyone else, I would like to recommend that you pay a little bit of extra labor to have that shop open up your primary to get your compensating sprocket chain and such off of that sprocket shaft for two very important reasons. Number one, to check the sprocket shaft run out, like I outlined in my previous video. It also gives them the opportunity to check your pinion shaft run out. More than likely they're going in there anyway because they're going to be putting cams and a cam plate in it and that sort of thing. But to give them an opportunity to rotate that crankshaft through its full rotation and travel. Did you guys like that? That's the 45-degree twin shuffle is what I call that. It gives them the opportunity to feel, to rotate it through. And if you get that unfortunate phone call from your chosen technician and he says to you, we may have a crankshaft problem, we may have a bearing problem, we may have something, take a look, because he may not be trying to just get in your wallet. He may be trying to just make your bike as good as it can be. So I hope this little tip helps you guys a bit. Stay tuned. Thanks to the members, subscribers, and if you don't mind, if you're not subscribed, if you would, and you like this video, hit subscribe, hit the notification bell so you'll see the next video, all that type of stuff. For you members, thanks again, guys, very much. Give me a couple more weeks. We're going to be doing a members live for you, and I can't wait to do that. That's going to be very exciting. I'm not sure what we're going to talk about. I may just do it open forum and let you guys decide exactly what we talk about. And I'm going to get back to work. Take care of yourselves and each other. You guys have a good one.